Hi everyone. Today what we are going to be coding is what I call a chase game. So the way that this is going to work, on the big screen, I'll show you guys the way the game is going to move first and then we'll go in and code it. So when I click on the green flag, you can see that the two sprites on the screen go to opposite ends. The dove is my player and the player is following my mouse pointer. So that is how I am getting the movement of my dove. Now, the bat is being moved by following the dove. So we are telling the bat to go towards the dove, and that's why it's continuously following us. The dove's job, and you as a player's job, is to get all of those stars, so all of these items that you need to collect, without touching the bat. Every time that you touch a bat, you lose points. Every time that you get one of those items, you can choose how many points you are going to gain. I personally went with 3. Now, when you reach a certain score, then your game is going to end, and that's how you win the game. So I will stop the game over here, and we will get started and go ahead and code it. So the very first thing you need to do is get 3 characters and a background. So I will get started with my background. On the very far right side, there's a little picture frame with a plus on it at the bottom. If you click on that, you can choose a background. Go ahead and choose whichever one you want. If you want to make a theme, this is where you get to pick those items. Some people can make underwater themes. You can make space themes. I'm just going to go and recreate my dove and bat theme. Once you have your backdrop, you just want to click on it to select it. And then right next to that icon that you clicked on, there's a cat with a plus on it. So go ahead and click on that to go and choose a sprite. And remember, we want 3 sprites. We want a player, a catcher, and an item to collect. So I'm going to go ahead and find my dove. Then I will go back on that choose a sprite, choose your catcher, and then go ahead again and you can go and look for an item to grab. I know I want a star, so I'm going to click on the search bar and I'm going to write star so I don't have to go and look for it. Now, if you see, my items are all super big right now, so it's going to be pretty hard to go around it if they're so big. There's not going to be that much space. So if we want to make our item go smaller, where there's those sprite objects that you can see, if you go a little bit in the middle, there's a box that says size 100. When you want to change the size, if you want to make it bigger, you change that number to a smaller number. If you want to make it smaller, you change it to a smaller number. If you want it bigger, then you can go ahead and pick a number higher than 100. I'm going to go with 60 because that's going to give me enough space to actually move around without being too confined in the surroundings. We're also going to go to the bat and do the same thing. Let's make the bat shrink. So again, go to where it says size 100. You can change it. I'm going to go with a size 40 so that it's pretty small. And then the last item we want to shrink is our object. And you can try about a size 50 depending on what object it is that you're grabbing. Now, the very first thing we want to do is to put our characters in opposite sides. The reason for that is when you start your game, you want to make sure the player has enough time to bring back their mouse and start controlling the dove. So I'm going to put my dove in the top left corner and my bat in the bottom right corner. And then I will let them go and fly towards each other. So let's get started with the bat's code. First, we need to tell it where to start every time we start our game by clicking on the green flag. So go to the yellow event box and grab the one that says when flag is clicked. Now, to define the position of your sprite, you have to go to motion and grab the 5th block that says go to X and Y. And the numbers that are in there should correspond to the numbers that you have on the the right middle side under your sprite where it tells you the X and Y position of your character. These numbers don't matter too much because they're just depending on where you put your character. So if you put your character in the top left or the bottom right or top right, they're going to be a bit different than the numbers on my screen. Now, still in the motion blocks, you're going to go down all the way almost to the bottom and grab the block that says set rotation style left and right. Now, it is your choice whether you want your character to only be able to turn and look towards the left or towards the right, or if you want them to be able to flip upside down when you're flying. Personally, I'm going to keep my characters facing right side up, so they're not going to flip over. So I'm going to keep set rotation style left and right. If you did want them to flip over, then you would pick all around by clicking on that arrow, getting the menu, and click on the third option. Next, let's go over to the orange control blocks because we want to tell our character to wait 1 second before it starts moving. So grab that very first block in your control blocks and attach it under your set rotation style. After that, still in control, grab the forever loop and attach it under your wait 1 second. And the reason for that is because we want the movement to repeat throughout the entire game, which means forever. Now to actually put in the movement, let's go all the way back up to the blue motion blocks. And we need to grab 2 different blocks. Imagine this like a game of tag. If you are running after your friend, you don't only move towards them, but you also have to point in their direction so that you are looking at them and then running. So our bat and our catcher needs to do the same thing. In your motion blocks, towards the middle, there's a point towards mouse pointer block. If you grab that and put it inside of the forever loop, you can then click on mouse pointer on the little arrow and pick the name of your sprite that is the player. So in my case, the dove is my player. So I'm going to tell my bat to point towards dove. Now again, once it looks at it, it then needs to move towards it. So if we want our character to move in the direction that it's pointing in, you want to grab the very top block in your motion blocks that says move 10 steps and put it under your point towards dove inside of the forever loop. Now to make sure that we have a chance to actually escape, we need the bat to be going a little bit slower than the dove. So instead of 10, I want you guys to click on that number and we are going to change it to 3. Now, feel free to play around with this number. Once you start the game, you can see if it's too fast, if it's too slow. If you want your character to move faster, you're going to change that number 3 to a bigger number. If you want it to move slower, you're going to change that number 3 to a smaller number. Now, if I start my game by clicking on the green flag, you can see my bat waits 1 second and then he starts flying towards me. But there's no movement in the bat. The bat has wings, but he's not using them. So if you go to the top left corner, there are 3 tabs that say code, costumes, or sounds. You want to go to the tab that says costumes. And this is going to depend on which character and which sprite you have chosen. For example, if you've chosen a fish sprite, it does not have multiple character animations. It has different options of what kind of fish you want to be, but there is no animation. Whereas this bat, if you see and I click around on the different movements, it opens and closes its arms and its wings. So I want to include that animation. To do that, let's go back to the coding area. And we are going to tell it, so go to events and grab that when flag is clicked. Then we're going to make our way over to the orange control blocks and grab a forever loop, attach it under there. And still in your control blocks, grab the block that says wait 1 second, put it inside of your forever loop, and I'll explain why in a second. And change that number to 0.1 or 0.2, somewhat of a small number, just don't go past 0.7. Now we're going to go to looks because anything that has to do with the way that our sprite looks or what we see is going to be in the purple look blocks. We want to cycle through our costume. What that means is we need to constantly be going to the next costume. To do that, you're going to grab the block that says next costume And you can either put it under your wait 0.1 seconds or above it in your forever loop. So now if you take a look at the game console and I start the game, you can see that the bat is going to move its wings up and down, and that's because it's going through the costumes. So that's great. Now our character is flying, but our dove still isn't moving. We can't really tell the dove what to do at this point. It's stuck in the same place. So let's go ahead and click on the dove. And what we need to do here, it's going to be very, very similar code than what we just did. And what that is that it needs to be following our mouse pointer. So again, the code is similar to what we are doing for the bat, where it's following the dove, but instead of following the dove, it's following our mouse. So let's go ahead and do that. You want to go to your event blocks in yellow and grab that when flag is clicked. I'll zoom in over here so you can see it a little better. We are going to tell it that when the flag is clicked, it needs to go to the specific position where it started in. So we're going to go to motion blocks and tell it to go to X and Y position. So remember, mine is at the top left, which is why I have a negative X and a positive Y. Now, just like the catcher, we need to decide if we want our bat to be, our dove to be able to spin upside down. To do that, let's go down in our motion blocks and grab the block that says set rotation style left, right. Next, we're going to go to our orange control blocks, and just like we told the bat to wait 1 second before it moves, to make the game fair, we also need to tell our player to wait 1 second. So grab that first control block and put it right under your 2 blue blocks. While we're here, we're also going to attach a forever loop because we want to control the movement forever throughout the entire game. And then let's make our way back to the blue motion blocks to put in that following. Now this is again similar to a game of tag. Instead of looking at your friend, the dove or your player is looking at your mouse pointer, and that's the little object that every time you move your mouse around, your keyboard's mouse, you're going to see like a little triangle that's moving, and that's what we call the mouse pointer. So in your motion blocks, you're going to grab the block that says point towards mouse pointer, and then you want to grab that move 10 and put it right under. So now if you click on that green flag, you can take a look. The dove is following my hand, and the bat is following wherever the dove is going. Now you can see that there's no animation in my dove yet. It looks left and right. If you see that little green leaf coming out of its mouth, it looks left and right, but it's not actually flapping its wings. So let's go ahead and put that code in. So just like I mentioned in the catcher, if your sprite does not have any animation or any costume changes, don't worry about the code that we're about to put in. You're not going to include it if there's no animation. So let's go to events. We're going to tell it when the flag is clicked, go to your forever blocks, your control blocks, and grab the forever loop. And make sure you have that wait 1 seconds block inside of it and change that 1 to a 0.1. And the reason we need to put a wait 0.1 is, I'll try to show you the difference. I'll make my dove bigger again. If I just tell my dove to go to the next costume forever, you can see how fast it's flapping its wings. It's not very realistic, and it's going super fast where it looks like it's glitching a little bit. When I add that 0.1, you can see now it's flapping its wings a little bit better because it's waiting 0.1 seconds before it goes to the next costume. So now it's great. You have a bat that's following your dove follows your mouse, but nothing's happening when the bat and the dove are running into each other, and we said that something does need to happen. So let's go ahead and put that code in. Let's go to our yellow event blocks and grab the when flag is clicked. And we are doing this still in the dove, so in your player's code. And then let's go to the control blocks, and we need to grab 2 different blocks from here. First, we're going to put a forever loop, and then inside of it, we're going to put an if-then. Now, for those of you who have not heard of an if-then before, it's a conditional. And what that means is the only way that the code inside of our then will happen is if the condition, so the rule that we have in that dark orange diamond shape, is correct. For example, I could say if it's raining, then grab an umbrella. You're not going to grab an umbrella if it's not raining, if I had used that condition. Another one could be if it's snowing, then grab your snow boots. You won't wear your snow boots unless it is snowing. In this game, we are going to tell the dove if it's touching your bat, so your catcher, then something's going to happen. And let's put that in. To check if it's touching, you're going to go to Sensing in the light blue and grab the very top block that says touching mouse pointer and put it inside of that dark orange diamond shape. If you see, the shapes match up, and when I move my mouse over it, it changes to this white outline, which is telling me that I'm putting it in the right place. Now, I don't want to check if it's touching the mouse pointer, so click on the little arrow next to that, and we want to change it to your catcher. So in my case, it is the bat. Now, what is going to happen when you touch the bat? We're going to tell our characters to go back to their initial position, so to move back, move away from each other, and we're going to have a scoring system. Every time you touch your catcher, you are going to lose a point. Now, this is optional if you don't want to have a scoring system, or if you don't want to lose points every time you hit the bat, then don't add that part in. For now, let's go to the motion blocks. And remember how we started off our dove in the top left corner. So we want to grab the go to X and Y block, but you want to change those numbers so that they match the numbers in the very first go to X and Y block that we put for the dove, which is a bit higher up in our first script. So in my case, I need to change that to -187, and then Y is 132. To make a scoring system, we do that in our variables. So let's click on the dark orange variable blocks. And a variable is just something that can hold information and that we can change. For example, a score can hold information of how many times you ran into your catcher, and it can change because we can tell it to go down every time that you run into your catcher. So in your variables, you're going to click on this see-through box that says make a variable. And you're going to write the name of your variable. So I'm just going to call it score. And then if you see there's an option that says for all sprites that's selected, and that's the one we want. So keep it on that selection and then click OK. And now you see I have a score up here and I have some new blocks that showed up. We want to change our score. So to do that, you want to grab the block that says change my variable by 1 and put it right under your blue go to X and Y inside of that forever loop. We need to specify what variable it is that we're changing. So where it says change my variable, click on that little arrow pointing down and change it to score. So it says change score by, and we want to change that 1 to a negative number. Now, you are free to choose whichever number you want, whether you want it to be a super big number that you lose or a super tiny one. Now, let's go ahead and make our way into our catcher again. The reason for that is because it's right that we told our dove to move back, but we also need to tell our bat and our catcher that when you run into your player, it also needs to reset its position. So this code is going to be very similar to the one that we just made over here. In your catcher, you're going to tell it from your yellow blocks when flag is clicked. Then you're going to go over to your control blocks and you're going to tell it to forever. And then you're going to grab that if then. And we are going to tell our catcher to forever check if it is touching the dove or if it's touching your player. So if you remember from the code we just did in the dove sprite, you have to go to sensing in the light blue, grab that very top block that says touching mouse pointer and put it in that dark orange diamond shape box. And click on the little arrow and change it to your player. So in my case, it's the dove. And if you remember to reset the position and make it go back to its initial spot, we have to go back to motion, grab the go to X and Y block, and we want to use the same numbers as before. So those numbers, depending on what you are, you can take them and find them from that very top go to X and Y block that we put in at the very beginning of our game. So let's test this out. If I move closer, you can see my number went to a negative number and my bat goes back to its initial place. It sometimes takes a little bit of time for it to do that, but generally this is working relatively fine. Awesome. So now the next thing to do is I can't really go ahead and catch that star yet. Nothing happens when I catch the star. So to put that in, we're going to go to our star and you can see that my score is not resetting. So I need to find something that's going to make the score reset. In your star or in the object that you're catching, we are going to start off with a when flag is clicked. We need to make sure that we can't see the star at the beginning of the game. Otherwise, it's super easy for you as a player to know where you want to go. So let's go to looks. And you're going to grab two blocks. Grab the hide block and attach it, but also grab the show block and just keep it off to the side. Don't attach it to anything yet. Just put it in your scripting area so that we can use it soon. Now let's go over to our control blocks, and what we're going to tell it is when you click on your flag, the star is going to hide and it's going to wait 2 seconds before it shows up. So from your control blocks, grab that wait 1 second and attach it under the hide, and then change that number 1 to a number 2. After that, you can attach the purple show block that was sitting on the side. And now if you start your game, if you count 1, 2, and then the star shows up. Let's try it again. Start the game, 1, and I'm counting too slowly. 1 and 2, and it shows up. Perfect. But we're still not able to catch it. To do that, we are going to stay in our control blocks and grab a forever loop. The reason for that is because we want the game to constantly check and wait until we touch our player before it changes the spot of our star. So if you heard that sentence, I said wait until. We actually have a wait until block in Scratch. If you go down a little bit towards the middle bottom of the control blocks, there's a wait until, and you can put that inside of the forever loop. Now, then go to sensing, and you're going to grab the top block that says touching mouse pointer and change the word mouse pointer to your dove or to your player's name. So what is going to happen once we touch the dove? We need to hide the object, right? Because it's as if you're grabbing the star and putting it in your pocket. So let's make our way back over to looks and grab the hide block, attach it under your wait until. Again, every time we hide an object, we will need to bring it back later on in the game. So we will need to tell it to show. So grab that show block and again, just keep it off to the side and we're gonna use it in just a little bit. Now, after our star hides, we want to gain points. We want our score to go up. So our score is a variable. So let's go to the dark orange variables and grab the block that says change my variable by 1 and attach it under your hide. Now you're going to change the word variable to score, and you can go ahead and pick what number you want. I'm going to go with 3 points. So every 3 points, every time I touch the star, I'm going to get 3 points. Now what we then need to do is we are going to go back to our control blocks and we're going to grab a wait 1 second and add it under your change score by 3. The reason for that is we don't want our star to appear super quickly after we catch it. We're going to give it a little bit of time. So you can pick how many seconds you want. I'm going to go with 2.5 seconds. And what it's going to do after that is we're going to go to motion and grab the block that says go to random position. What that does is every time it's respawning, it's going to respawn in a random place. Now remember that purple show block that we grabbed off to the side? This is where we're going to add it. We're going to tell it to show after it goes to a random position. Now if you remember, I was saying that every time I start my game, my score is not resetting. To do that, let's go to the events in yellow and grab a when flag is clicked. And we are going to tell it that when flag is clicked, you're going to go to variables and you're going to grab the block that says set my variable to 0. You're going to change the word my variable to score, but otherwise this star is good to go encoded. So let's give it a try. I have to escape from the bat. There we go. So I grabbed the star and you can see my score went up. If I run into the bat, my score went down. Now my bat is not always respawning. So you see that sometimes I run into it and it's not moving back. So here's what we will do. Let's go to the bat where we told it that when the flag is clicked to forever, if it's touching the dove, then go to an X and Y position. Let's also tell it to wait a little bit. So you're going to grab a wait 1 second block from the control, put it under that go to X and Y. You can tell it to wait 1 second or 0.5 seconds. Let's try that out. You can see, there we go. So now it's going back. I think I'm moving my mouse too quickly. Let's see why it's doing that. Let's try that. Okay, there we go. So that's better. I think when it's very slightly touching it, it's not recognizing the wings. Awesome, perfect. So now let's go and put an end to our game. Oh my goodness, I told it 15 seconds. Change that to 1 second. So now let's go ahead and go to our dove because we want a way for our game to end. So right now our game is not ending at any point and we want to add that in. So go to your player. And what we are going to tell it that when the flag is clicked, so when green flag clicked from your events, we are going to forever check if our score is equal to something. And if it is, then we're going to stop the game. So let's go to controls, grab your forever loop and add it under your when flag is clicked. Grab an if then and put it inside of it. And while we're in the control blocks, let's also go towards the bottom and grab the block that says stop all and put it inside of your if then. So that if that statement that we're about to put in is true, then everything stops. Let's go over to the operators and we need a shape that matches this diamond shape. We are going to grab the equal sign. So that's the 2 lines on top of each other. And then you're going to make your way over to the variables and grab that score bubble to put it in the first blank. So right now it says forever if score is equal to 50. Just to try out the game, I'm going to put 3 and I'm going to give it a try just to see if it works, and then I can always go back and edit that out. See, it's all the way up in the corner. And there we go. So it stopped the game because I moved my score up by 3 points every time I catch one. So now I can move it up and I'm going to say 30. That way I need to catch 10 individual stars to be able to finish the game. Now there's something to keep in mind here. If you have chosen an uneven number, so for example, I told my star to go up by 3. When I'm checking what my score needs to be, we actually need to go ahead and grab that bigger than. The reason for that is because if I tell it equal, what if I get 27 stars, or 27 points, sorry, but then I hit the bat? Now I'm back down to 26 points. And then I catch another star. I'm up to 29. I grab once again another star. 29 plus 3 is going to give me 32. So my game is checking if score is equal to 30. Now 32 is not equal to 30, so it won't stop my game. Which is why if you have an uneven number, like I have in my star, then you want to use the bigger than. And now, even if my score is 32, because it's bigger than 30, my game will end. If you are only changing your score by ones, then you don't have to worry about this and you can go by an equal sign. So that is it for this game. To save it, you want to go up top to the little header area in blue where it says Untitled, and we can write Chase Game Tutorial. And then you're going to go to File and click on Save Now. If you want to share the game with someone or with the Scratch community, you can click on this orange Share button, and you can go ahead and put the instructions in here. So that will be all. Thanks for joining today.